Welcome, fellow refiners, to another episode of Refinement Not Retirement, the podcast that talks about refining your life in preference to retiring from it. I'm Tony Coe, and I co-host the Refinement Not Retirement podcast with my wife, soulmate, and life partner, Christine. Hi, Christine.
Hello, good morning. Yes, it is. Because no, it's not. I've missed it. It's good afternoon. Sorry.
Doesn't matter. So, we think about this podcast as a sort of talking therapy for retirees, mainly for ourselves. Actually, mainly for me, probably. I find that the process of talking things through with others, especially with Christine, helps me sort out my thoughts and make decisions. Christine and I, as regular listeners will know, we only quit our business a few months ago, and it's a business that was really totally our life for decades. And now, in these recent months, we've been adjusting to this new phase of our lives, and we're learning all the time, and we're learning from each other, and we're learning from others, and we're learning from doing this podcast. I mean, you know, the process of preparing these episodes and thinking about what we're going to talk about, that's all a help. That's all a form of therapy, if you like. And thank you for being with us on our therapeutic journey. We've come to see our lives as an ongoing series of life refinements, making improvements, adjustments as we go. Some of them are big, some of them are small, and we've been doing that actually not just over the last few months, but by any means, but over the decades that we've been together. And in the past,
probably without even realizing half of them, we've just been going along.
Yeah.
And suddenly saying, "Oh, how did we come to this conclusion? How did we come to that conclusion?" It's changed, hasn't it? Without us even consciously knowing some of it.
Yes, and you know, when we came across the sort of concept, it came to us about refining rather than retiring. Then we had to obviously start thinking about what we're going to talk about, and we saw very clearly these course corrections that we've made over the decades that we've been together. So in past episodes, we've been talking about many of these refinements. As I say, some of them have been big ones, some of them have been small ones. Today's episode, very topically, because Wimbledon, we are at the end of the first week of the Wimbledon fortnight right now. Murray went out yesterday, sadly. It's topical because we're going to talk about tennis in our lives. Tennis was a big refinement in our lives, and it came about. Well, you say, Chris, rather than me doing all the talking, you say how tennis became, such an important thing. Well, I guess
I was a very keen tennis player from the age of 12. Anyway, I think I had quite a natural talent for it, and so my teachers said at school, and I used to enjoy it, and I can remember spending hours ironing my little white pleated tennis skirt, each pleat fold, and I very much enjoyed it, and I was told that I could go a long way, but then, you know, school comes to an end, and my life took a different path, and so I used to still watch it all the time. I mean, I wouldn't ever miss any tennis that was on the television or on the radio. If it was a beautiful day, I couldn't even bear to go inside and watch it. I would listen to it while I was sunbathing in the garden. So it's always been a big part of my life, and it became even bigger, as I think you're suggesting, and as we know, when we moved to Florida, and found that there was a team that we joined where we moved to. We quickly became very involved in that team, and started playing tennis all the time. And we started playing for Collier County, which was the county in where we lived, and we played a lot of team tennis, over whatever age, mixed doubles, singles, and we sort of moved up the ranks. And then we joined a tennis club, didn't we, in West Byfleet, which we discovered through some Canadian friends that we'd actually relocated many years before that, and they suggested that we approach the gentleman that ran it. I can't remember his name now.
I know
Sadly,
it was Mike.
he died.
Yes, sadly
Yes, he
he's
was Mike.
passed away. But
yes, he died. But we said to him,
can I just pause you
yes.
just for a second? I want you to continue with that. But Florida was a huge refinement in our lives, and we are going to probably be having several episodes on that refinement and what our lives was like in Florida. But we're just narrowly focusing on the tennis aspect at the moment, which is great. That's what this episode is about. But for context, we lived on a gated community where they had a fantastic tennis club. Most people, when they go and live in Florida, play golf. Others like us who prefer something.
Yes, I was going to say that
active.
there was a choice between.
Well, you continue with what you were saying.
So no, I was going to say, so it was a sort of, it was lucky because a lot of clubs, particularly in Florida, you have to join both, the complex. But we had the opportunity to join one or the other, or both. There were lots of people that did both, but we just went for the tennis. And then going back to the West Byfleet, we approached Mike and said, look, we're only here. It was a yearly membership. We're only here 6 months because we're 6 months in Florida. Would you be prepared to do a pro rata membership, which he willingly did? So we then became very active when we returned from Florida in the summer months and played on team tennis there as well, didn't we, in tournaments? And
absolutely.
And I think my final sort of days before we left and before we discovered pickleball, which again is another subject, I was on the over 60s. I don't remember whether you were on the over 60s team or whether there wasn't a men's over 60s. There was a ladies over 60s. So I think I played for a couple of years in the over 60s.
Were we over 60?
Well, I was in West Byfleet. I remember playing.
Okay, I don't remember that, but
I think it finished about 62. I think. I mean,
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're right.
Age 62. I definitely got a couple of years. So and then, but can I just jump in here just quickly? So through that West Byfleet Tennis Club, we then discovered Eastbourne, the warm up to Wimbledon, which at that time was only ladies. And a lot of people from West Byfleet Tennis Club were going down to Eastbourne, and we read about it, looked it up, and thought, this is very interesting to us too. And that's how we started going to Eastbourne. So back to you, Tony, because I think you can take it from there.
Absolutely. The Eastbourne became a very special thing because we always loved watching Wimbledon every year on the TV. We still love watching it, are loving it at the moment, this fortnight. But it's awfully difficult and expensive to get tickets for Wimbledon. I mean, we could only really get them if we won the ballot through our tennis club. I don't know if it's still done that way, but that was the case then. So and we did sometimes win, and we did get tickets sometimes, but it was highly speculative whether you got them or not. So, and we wanted to go and watch some tennis live, but Wimbledon was really out of our reach because of that. And this tournament, which I'm not sure I knew anything about at the time, but we learned about this tournament, as you say, through tennis friends at the UK club, and we decided to go because I think they had a trip there every year. I don't think we didn't go on that. We decided to go independently, or we couldn't get on it because we were too late for some reason, but we decided to go ourselves. And I think that we probably only went for a couple of days. I remember I think so, yeah. I think it's a long time ago. It might be 15 years ago when we first started going there.
We'd stay in a hotel, wouldn't we, to start with?
Yeah, I think we stayed at the Grand Hotel, which is that was rather special. But we still spent a fraction of what we would have spent if we were going to Wimbledon, even though Wimbledon was only just down the road from where we lived. But what immediately struck us is the intimacy of the Eastbourne tournament. You know, the whole sort of experience of going down there. You're very close to the players, and because it's much smaller, you become intimately involved, really, with the whole scene. Which is fantastic. And even when you go out to the restaurants, because there aren't that many great restaurants in Eastbourne, but there are a few, and people tend to gravitate to the best ones. And we would find ourselves sitting very often right next to players. And I remember you used to you regularly used to strike up conversations because you're that kind of a person.
Particularly with Radwanska, I think that was Radwanska.
Yeah, with players and so on, and it was just terrific. And we thought, oh gosh, we got to get more of this. I think we discovered that there was a possibility to buy tickets for the whole week, and they were called and are called season tickets. But getting hold of them, of course. They were very difficult to get hold of, but we have a little story about how we managed to secure some quite fortuitously, right, Chris? Why don't you tell that little story?
Yes. So we were sitting on the west stand, which was glorious sort of in the morning, but then as the afternoon sun moved round, it became in a complete shadow and was very cold. And of course, it was so right on the Eastbourne Devonshire Park Club is right by the sea, so depending on the sort of weather, and the winds, a howling wind could come through and gales, and the weather was always mixed, wasn't it, like anywhere in the UK? But we were sitting next to, or I think he was behind us or in front of us, a gentleman called Mike, and he said to us one day when we didn't have a season ticket, I think we were there for a couple of days. He said, just to let you know, I'm giving up my season ticket on this side. I've been coming for years. I am moving to the East Stand. So if you fancied season tickets, he said, if you go into the box office after I've been in there and given them up and tell them that you've heard that there's a couple of seats coming up, see if you can get them. So we were up like a shot. If you remember, we went trotting over there and did exactly that and spoke to lady. And I said, look, we'd really like some seating. I understand these 2 seats are now up for grabs, basically. I had the seat numbers. And they said yes. And they said, would you like them? And we said, yes, please. And so we signed up for the season tickets, and I've had them ever since. And in fact, funnily enough, we got fed up with that side too. I don't know how many years later, a couple of years later. And I think I got in contact with the LTA and I said, look, is there any way we can change our season tickets and move to another? This was obviously before things changed a lot with the LTA in Eastbourne, which that's another conversation,
story we'll come
really?
To. Yeah.
But so we moved over and discovered we were right in front of Mike on the other side. And so we struck up a relationship with him, along with a lot of other people that have been having season tickets. We were in the front row, right opposite the umpire's chair in row A, 44 and 45. And there we would sit every year from that day forth for that 1 week.
And of course, it's a hot spot for TV cameras, isn't it?
Yes. We seem to be very popular. In fact, this year we seem to be on television every day. And we even had a friend from New York message us who were big tennis buddies of ours in Florida, and Dot suddenly sent me a WhatsApp message saying, I've just seen you and Tony on the television. You both look wonderful. And we went, wow. So we got in contact with her and had a lovely chat. And that
seems to happen quite a bit. I mean, people are always mentioning seeing us, which is just by dint of having those tickets, right, as you say, right opposite the umpire's chair, and it tends to be an area that the cameras
and just the group of people there was fantastic. And all the same crowd. We didn't form a relationship with them other than that 1 week, And then
Yeah,
we would
they're
all go
annual
off.
friends, aren't they? We
It
only
was the
see them that
annual
week.
friends. We would all go off on the last day, and we'd say bye-bye to one another and say have a good year, and we'll see you next year. And that's how it's gone on for maybe 12 years, I would think.
Well,
If
as
we've
a
been going
result
for
of getting
15.
those, yes, was a result of getting those season tickets. Obviously, we needed accommodation arrangements, and we couldn't afford the Grand Hotel for a week. That's for
Not for
sure.
every
And
night, no.
we wanted something a bit, since we were going to be there for a whole week, we wanted something a little bit better than a tiny hotel room,
Yes.
because that's all we could have
Yeah.
afforded. And so we would, for the last 10, 12 years, whatever it is, we have been renting an apartment every year. You have to pretty much book them the day you leave if you want to get a good one for the following year. And we've been doing that, and we've had, I think, on the whole, very good experience. We've got to know the restaurants. As you will, if you're a regular listener, you will know that we're both vegans. We weren't at the beginning of this refinement journey, for tennis refinement journey, but we have been for a few years now, and so we've got to know the restaurants that do great vegan food. There's two restaurants which are very well known by the tournament regular goers like us. Two Italian restaurants on what's that road called? Cornhill Terrace, is it? Something like that.
Not Cornhill, it's Corn something.
Yeah, but
Yes.
these two restaurants are owned by the same owner, and they're Italian. One is more sort of upmarket, called La Laconda de Lune, I think. I just refer to it as La Laconda, and its sister restaurant is Mozzarella e Pomodoro, yeah, that's
Pomodoro,
right.
yes.
And that's a little bit more casual than
more pizzas and pastas and stuff. And they've started doing a special vegan menu for us now.
I was just going to say, yeah, absolutely, they do a vegan menu. That I think that we were instrumental in getting them to do that, because we've been going there, obviously coming back every year, and we spend quite a few bob in there. And we found other restaurants that are really great. We found one this year, a new one. We seem to find a new one every year. We found one.
Yes, we do.
Called Ancient Grains, run by a Sardinian couple, I think I'm right in saying. Ancient Grains in the Mead Village area of Eastbourne, and we had great experience with that restaurant too. Very intimate.
Well, that's where
we've
stayed, haven't we, the last couple of years? So it was an
Mead
8-minute walk just around the corner. A nice little village, Mead's Village, and it was perfect.
Yes, and I mean, we've got some fantastic memories. I remember, I think one of the early tournaments, Kim Cloisters was staying at the Grand Hotel when we were staying there. I remember Martina Hingis around the sort of 2011 mark.
Yeah, and we were in the Indian with her. Remember? Yes, she was in the doubles. Yes,
absolutely. And then one year the Williams sisters turned up, which was amazing to see them with their father, King Richard, from the movie, and seeing them up close.
Andy Roddick,
yes,
did his final
Randy
there.
Roddick did his final hurrah there. He was a little bit of an unusual character. He sort of he thought he was the king of Eastbourne, I think.
Well, I think there's somebody who thought they were a bigger king than that, and that was Djokovic. Remember that?
Well, yes, and then one year. Well, let's just stick with Andy Roddick, because it was seeing him. It was a real pleasure seeing him up close. But he was a little bit, I thought, big-headed in the way he carried on, and of course he took over the whole of the back of the restaurant that I mentioned, La Laconda, didn't he?
Yes,
was in there with his entourage. But that was, it was fun to be part of that. And then, in a subsequent year, Djokovic decided to go down, which was incredible. I mean, the top guy really in tennis in the world, and he goes to the Eastbourne tournament, and that was a real treat. I mean, he was so gracious in his remarks to the Eastbourne crowd. Pity he hasn't been back since. But that was great. But
actually, can I just jump in on that, because I did say that when it started that it was a ladies only.
Yes.
And then the men started being introduced. Was that 2009? Was it?
Oh, you know what?
Something like that. Then they dropped them again. And
Did
now
they?
they've reintroduced them again.
Yeah.
I think that's how
I
it's
think
worked.
most times we've been going there, it's been in my memory, there have been men
Not at the
there,
beginning, there
not at
was
the very
definitely only
beginning, probably
ladies.
not,
Yes.
but certainly I can remember men being involved for most of the years that we've been going. But you get the picture, dear listener. It's been a big part of our lives. I've looked forward to that week every year, and I was looking forward to it greatly this year as well. And we've just come back from there, and on the whole, I think we had a very decent time. But we were beginning to think that maybe, let's frame it this way: all life refinements we've found, course corrections, they need to be reviewed and course corrections made. As you find yourself, your tastes change, circumstances change, and this is the first time we really sort of went down feeling maybe this has run its course. Maybe we've been one too many times. But we still went down with a positive attitude, and I think on the whole we had a great time this time. But there were some negatives. First of all, one thing to say about Eastbourne is the Eastbourne tournament. Of course, it's the biggest event of the year in Eastbourne. I mean, it makes a massive difference to their economy, so I hope it keeps going. But one thing to say about it is that it is, as Christine mentioned, a warm-up tournament, grass tournament, just before Wimbledon. And that means that players go into it with a certain mindset. And that mindset is, this is practice. Great if I do well at this tournament, of course, but this is kind of practice. And therefore, at the slightest thing, they are inclined to pull out.
Yes, that's
They're
very
also
true.
inclined not to commit to the tournament. I think, I don't know this for a fact, but the sense I get is that they don't really commit to it until they're absolutely 100% sure they want to go, which means you don't really know who's going to appear. You as a spectator don't really know, and I suppose the organizers themselves don't really know who's going to be coming.
And the week before that, if you know, is at Nottingham, which is ladies only. Oh no, it's not ladies only at Nottingham now, is it? Because isn't that where Andy Murray won?
Yes, I think that's right.
Yeah, but I think again, I think they see how they do in Nottingham, and then some of the Nottingham players do not go on to Eastbourne, and if they've got a slight injury or slightly unwell,
or even a headache,
or a headache, they will say that they're committed, and then they'll pull out, or they'll come and play one game, because if you play one game, you get some money, and then you pull out. E.g., Kvitova, who does it all the time.
Yeah, so then the slightest slip or whatever, and they feel
they don't want to risk their
they don't want to
chances,
risk it, and you can totally understand that, and nobody is criticizing the players for doing that, but it's just a fact of life.
Yeah, and disappointing for us, the supporters, though. It is disappointing when you're looking forward to somebody, and suddenly the next minute you like Ostapenko, and then suddenly she's pulled out, and
yeah, of course,
it is disappointing for us.
So there is that side of it. We never quite know, what sort of tennis we're going to get, how much tennis we're going to get, but usually they manage to do a very decent job. This year, the big sort of disappointment that we had on arrival at the tournament was the first 2 days, the Saturday and the Sunday. There are games being played. They're often qualifying games, but and we have purchased at some significant cost seats for both those days on centre court, but we're not guaranteed our seats. We're just guaranteed seats. But this time on arrival, to our astonishment, really, the centre court was closed. So that meant that we didn't obviously have seats, and it meant that what are we going to do? Here we are now at the weekend. wanting to get in and see some tennis as we always do with our tickets in hand. We obviously get into the ground, but we can see that we were told that there's no play on centre court because it's closed. Okay, so we'll make the best of this, and we'll get on to, because there were some good matches being played. We wanted to obviously get onto the courts, but because there was no paid for reserved seating on those outside courts, court 1 and I think court 2. There was lines of people trying to get in, and it was actually very unpleasant because we couldn't get in. We ended up having to just abandon the operation. We couldn't get in, and people were getting very testy. One stage we thought we got 2 seats on court 1, and we went to take them. We were shown to them, and the marshal said, "Yeah, you can have those 2." So we went to sit in our seats, only to be told by the guy next door, "No, they've gone to the bathroom." Not for a bath, of course, just my way of saying toilet. That's what comes of living in America for any period of time. So
actually, and Heather Watson was on that course.
Yeah, Heather Watson was. You're quite right. And we thought, well, here we were. We thought, oh gosh, after all these hours of lining up and standing, not being able to see any tennis, we're going to get these seats. No, he's gone. And then we sort of we're going to say, well, if you leave 2 people leave their seats, really, that's they've left their seat. No, they've got to be allowed to go to the toilet, which is a fair point. Of course, they have, but we had to then climb over people to get out, feeling quite sort of sheepish. And I think me more than you, Chris, I was feeling really, I just didn't want to do this anymore.
No, you didn't. Yeah.
And you said, let's go and complain. I'm going to go and complain now. So we did actually, cut a long story short, we did actually go into the LTA admin part, and we saw somebody there, and they, they said, they understood, and they were going to pass on our complaint, blah, blah, blah. And they even said, we're going to get back to you by the end, so it's not, so your weekend isn't a total washout. We're going to get back to you and see if we can provide a solution. Never heard that day, and haven't heard anything since. And that really did start us off for the week, on a very sort of negative note, and sort of added to our feelings, obviously, that this might be, something that we don't want to do anymore. Actually, as the week went on, and we came in on the Monday, things did improve, and we did see some great tennis. But I have since we haven't heard from LTA, I have written a letter to them. So I think the way we left it, Christine and I left it, was that we would defer our decision on what we're going to do next year to see what kind of response we get from them. But they're not known really for being terribly flexible.
Communicative.
But we'll see what happens, and I think as a result of that, we will make a decision on what to do next year. But we wanted to share that with you. That has been, as I say, refinements have to be reviewed, and here we are reviewing this refinement, which is a small, the tennis thing is a small.
It is, and we've
refinement.
had some great times, as you would go back to say that. It's been a fabulous time, but it could well be the signal that enough's enough, especially having moved much further, another couple of hours north. It was an easy journey from London, but it's not quite, it's more like a 5-hour drive.
Well, yes, because now we're in the Cotswolds, in the beautiful village, let's just say, I can't say it enough, of Elmley Castle. And in the Cotswolds,
maybe it is time to move on. We just have to, as you say, we'll review it, and we don't have to do much about it until next year anyway. But it is under reviewing refinement.
Reviewment, that's a new word. I think that we would, though, not think, I know we would. We'd like to hear what you've got to say about this. I mean, maybe you can help us make a decision. You often do, dear listener. So, do get in touch with us and let us know what you think about this. In terms of our own sporting life, we gave up tennis, as you know. We've got a couple of episodes earlier. We did a couple of episodes earlier about the fantastic sport of pickleball, which is very central to our lives and was a huge and very beneficial life refinement that we made.
And growing very fast.
Growing
Faster
very,
than
very.
tennis now in the States.
Yes, it's a absolutely massive sport. If you haven't had an opportunity to try it, you do look on Pickleball England, find out your nearest club and have a go. You never know. I think you'll probably fall in love with it like most people do instantly.
Are you rhyming
something...
this? Have a go. You never know.
Oh, well, no, I wasn't.
Ho, ho, ho.
I'm just naturally talented. What can I say? So, yeah, and one thing I would say about pickleball tournaments, we are getting them going here. There's a big one coming up in Telford, 800, I think, players. But they're taking a different course in the United States, and very much involving the fans, not only in watching great pro level pickleball, but also in competing in the same tournament. So there's that there is that element to it. That is much more. It's not so elitist as tennis. I mean, tennis is a difficult sport, But anyway, I'm going to close now this episode because we're coming up to the end of our time. And Christine has admonished me before we took to the air today to say, don't go on too long, Tony, when you're closing it. So I've got to not go on too long. But what I would say is that, we're a young podcast. We're delighted that our audience is growing and that people more and more are talking about our podcast.
You're going to say we were young,
but we need your hardly. We need your help. So please do like, share, engage, get involved in our conversation, give us feedback, tell others about it. We'd love you to do that. Which you can do in many ways. This podcast is mainly hosted by Spotify, which I think is a great platform, but obviously it's on Apple and all great podcast platforms. But you can engage with us on our Facebook page, which has the same name as the show, which is Refinement Not Retirement. You can find that easily. You can watch us recording this on YouTube, same name for that channel. And please do, we love to hear from you, whether it's privately or publicly. That's entirely up to you. But for now, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Bye, everyone. We'll be back
Bye-bye.
soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.